So, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of the Deercast. We've got Katie Hargreaves to thank for this one because we saw her. I can't remember if it was at the stalking show or if it was before then, and she said, "You know who you should have on the podcast? It's my best mate, Paul Childerly." Um, Harry and I said to each other, "Well, there's no way someone as big time as Paul will want to come on our crappy little podcast." And she was like, "No, don't worry, he owes me a favour." I think Harry and I both at the time were like, "This will never happen." Well, guess who we've got on the podcast? Everyone, very pleased to bring you Mr. Paul Childerley.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here and ready for a grilling from you guys.
Absolutely. We were just chatting before we started recording to say that we put a post on Instagram asking for listener questions. And I think we had more questions for you, Paul, than we've ever had for anyone else ever on the podcast. So I think that's kind of a testament to you and your and how people perceive you. Some of them slightly more bizarre than others, but we'll come on to those in a bit.
Yeah, I bet there's quite a few, one or two people taking the mickey, and which is always good, keep things light-hearted. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what a few of the questions are about.
Yeah, good. So I mean, if anyone hasn't heard of you, Paul, they're probably living under a rock. But for everyone else, and just for kind of like interest, do you want to just tell us a little bit about you, what you get up to, how you got into shooting, and yeah, go from there.
Oh God. Well, obviously, name's Paul Childerly, and Childerley is quite a hard name to say, actually. And it's obviously a town in Cambridgeshire, but actually, I grew up in the Cotswolds in Camden. My father's a gamekeeper, and obviously grew up in that lifestyle. So basically, as soon as I could walk, I was out in the countryside. It's like his sidekick from day one, really, and went all the way through. So like rearing pheasants and deer stalking and managing the estate all the way through. And it was sort of like it was a destiny, I suppose. I didn't know much else, so it was something I sort of like loved, and all I knew. So yeah, it's sort of like something I was destined to do, I think.
And what was your sort of earliest like sort of deer stalking memory? Do you have something you sort of recall?
Yeah, I mean, deer stalking. Back when my like father was gamekeeping on an estate called in Camden, there wasn't actually that many roe deer, believe it or not. And I remember the excitement of the first roe deer coming on the estate. And but it was a buck, it was a young buck, and it was like quite a exciting thing at the time. But on the estate, the owner was actually loved his trees, so roe deer were obviously a big no. So it was basically go from the fox shooting straight over to the deer culling. And I remember like many a time sitting in the high seat with my dad, and like studying them as much as anything else, really. We'd only shoot probably three or four a year to start with, and then it's like gain from there.
Yeah. And was there ever a doubt that you were going to go into gamekeeping? As in, was there ever something else that kind of turned your eye and you thought, actually, no, this is going to be the career for me, and then you went back to gamekeeping? Or was it just literally from day one, this is what I'm going to do?
Yep, from day one, I basically lived it and just dreamed about it. So when I was at school, looking out the window, yeah, it was everything was like moved that way. So my grades were so I can get into college, so I could do gamekeeping and land management. I went to Sparsholt down in Winchester, which was great. The government cut the course short. It's a YT course at the time. It's a 3-year course. The government cut it short, and I actually went to Fordingbridge with Game Conservancy for the gamekeepers. I believe it's gamekeepers. Oh, I think it was oh god, it was like a, I can't think now. It was like for the older gamekeeper trying to get into it. It was like a month course, which actually was fantastic because I had people coming in teaching us that were like experts in the field. So there's like Archie Coates. I think people can't even remember Archie Coates, but at the time he was like the expert pigeon shooter. There was like it was a great sort of thing to finish off my sort of like learning career as like a junior. And then I like went on to be a beekeeper onto the next estate down in Cirencester. There we had a lot of deer, a lot of fallow deer, which we used to shoot probably 150 a season, roughly, which was like one of my main like tasks. And then I was there for 4 or 5 years, and then I moved down to Bedfordshire, where I am now.
Wow.
And have you always been more drawn to one aspect of sort of gamekeeping? I know there's a lot of keepers who are sort of stalkers who keep birds, and there are a lot of keepers who, you know, are sort of keep stalkers that, yeah, that's sort of the other way around. You know, is there a particular aspect of it that you're drawn to?
The great thing about my job, my business, it just changes, and there's so many aspects to it. So we got the game shooting, and we don't just do 300 bird days pheasants. We do ducks, pheasants, and partridge. We do bigger days driven. We do medium-sized days. We do small days. We've got 3 syndicates. We've got a duck syndicate, a small bird syndicate, a small day syndicate, and the larger syndicate. We do walked up days. We do field trials. So that in itself is sort of like, and duck flighting. So we've got quite a wide range just in that sector of the business. And then you've got the stalking, and the stalking has evolved over the years from being a hobby when I was a youngster, and still is a hobby because I do my own bits and pieces still. I still love it, but it's turned into like quite a business model. It is a business, you know. I have to make money at it to make it all work, and it's gone from sort of like being shooting a few deer to shooting quite a lot of deer in the season. And it's
has that naturally changed with numbers? Because obviously, for those people that don't know, I'm guessing bulk of your cull is Chinese water deer, and so therefore has that changed in terms of you're culling a lot more just because the numbers are there, or because there's more sort of people interested in coming to do it, so there's more outlet for it, if you know what I mean, or what's the driver?
There's been a massive sort of like interest in the last 5-8 years. Last 3 years, I think it's just been a massive increase in people's interest in stalking, food. The whole industry, I think, has had a massive sort of like boost, especially with the game shooting prices increasing. So it's been great for the industry, that side of it. But for me personally, it's you get a bit more land, and then you get the management you do. Sometimes you have a good season with weather, so you've got a bit of a spike in numbers, so you have to cull more. But generally, it is interesting of people, so you need more ground, need more animals.
Yeah,
and then that becomes management, and you start managing that properly, and then you get this turnover of animals that come through. So you constantly manage the level that the farmers or the landowners are happy at. So it's a very hard sort of like it's a hard one to get right, because you've got so many people to keep happy, whether it's the customers or the landowners or the bank balance. So it's I
have to say, I'm always amazed at how much you seem to be doing. You know, you've got all, like you say, all the Chinese water deer, stalking, you know, ducks and pheasants and partridge. Your winter must be, insane. How do you manage? How do you manage all of that at once? I mean, it just seems insane.
It's good planning and good staff in place, really. Guys have got you've done it for a while now, that they know the ground, that they know how it works. You know, it is literally, it does run very smoothly. And having a good setup as well. So, when you come back to the larder, it's clean, animals go in, it's like a system. They joke that they take the piss out of me, basically, when we especially do the bigger culls, because I like a system. So when the animals come in, they're on the floor, and it's a system that goes through the larder and it goes into the clean chiller. And, they mock me, but...
Are you trying to say that you're a bit OCD, Paul? Is that what you're...
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how you all? Because we always do these podcasts, and both Harry and I always come away a bit depressed at the end because we meet people like you who are doing a million different things and seemingly doing them all amazingly well. I mean, and Harry just said pheasant, partridge, duck, Chinese water deer, you're stalking, world champion kickboxer, Fieldsports channel as well. Like, how do you plan your week, your day? Like, what do you literally wake up and you're very tunnel visioned, or are you just one of these like extraordinarily organized people who knows exactly where they're supposed to be all the time?
Some people wouldn't say I was organised, but if you see my desk here at the moment, it's like, there's leases, there's shoot dates, there's bookings, there's commissions for agents from last season. It's all there, and it takes a lot of time. I mean, a lot of people see the nice bit of the job, but they don't see when I'm a bit snowed under. I get up at 4:30 in the morning and do 2 hours before I go out, and when I'm finished tonight, I need to get some things done for tomorrow. So there is quite a lot, but I'm changing slightly. I'm actually getting another staff member to try and alleviate a little bit of pressure and a little bit of stress would be probably the word, so I can probably enjoy it a little bit more and just organize it a little bit better and do more.
And how did Fieldsports channel sort of come into your life, if you know what I mean?
That's quite interesting, actually. Yeah,
it's from the outside, it seems like it's quite a big part of what you do, but I mean, you might say to us it's only a couple of days a year.
Yeah, that's what it used to be. So basically, I started doing some stuff. I was writing for the Sport and Rifle back in the day when it was going, and Peter Carr at the time was doing some film with I think it was a shooting show, and Fieldsports wanted to do their first one, so all about the same sort of time. And they wanted to do the first Fieldsports with myself. Actually, no, that's wrong. Actually, no, it was a long time ago now. It was actually no. Change that. Hold. Delete. That again.
Yeah.
How I got involved with them was Peter Carr and Charlie Jacoby wanted to do a film, and it's one of their first ones, either the first or the second one, on Chinese water deer. And they come down, and I didn't want to be into it because I was already employed by somebody. I didn't really want to be, in front of the camera. I didn't want the recognition. And they did the film. I ended up doing quite a bit of the behind the scenes for them with calibers and stuff like that, explaining exactly what it was. That was the film done. Went out and it was quite interesting. And then I was doing some stuff with Zeiss, and they wanted to do some films. And then at the same time, I got made redundant and started doing my own business. And I thought, well, this is my platform for my advertising. And basically, I stuttered, a bit like I am today, stuttering and going on and backwards and forwards. And it sort of worked. But it's been a great tool for me, really, especially for not so much for the game shooting, because I already had a name in that, and I already got my sort of like contacts I've built up over the years. But it's more in the stalking and the getting out there to the beginners and the people that want to just try stalking or learn about stalking. So it's been great for that.
It's amazing to watch from the outside, and I think we're incredibly lucky as a community to have a resource like Fieldsports Channel, something that weekly puts out a film, and the quality of them is absolutely amazing. I mean, and which say Harry and I both started this podcast, and we've got our own very, very crappy YouTube channel. After a couple of beers, and we were both like, how difficult can it be? And it's when we're both there trying to film stuff on an iPhone, and then you put it on YouTube and it looks terrible, that you then suddenly realize how much goes into Fieldsports Britain to make it look as good as it does. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. It really is. All the organisation as well. I mean, I actually kind of got into stalking, I think, around the time that you were doing those very first sort of videos. Like I think I must have been about 20 or something like that, and I remember watching some of your first videos, and I think Andy Crow was involved quite early on, wasn't he, doing sort of pigeon shooting? So I think it was quite an inspiration to quite a few people I know anyway, who are doing stalking and that sort of thing now. So I think it's had an impact.
probably why you've had so many listener questions, Paul.
Mhm.
And I feel that given we have had as many questions as we have, we probably ought to cover some of them, or try and cover as many as we can. And I'm just going to apologise to some of the listeners now, because we had so many, we're not going to get round to all of them. And some of you all asked the same questions, so we'll make sure that get asked. But we'll start off with an easy one for you, Paul, or possibly not an easy one. This is from Ollie Williams. So you can kick him or punch him next time you see him. He wants to know, how do you maintain your incredible skin? We need a breakdown of all the products you use.
Classic Ollie Williams, eh? Pass.
Pass. You message him privately, slip into his DMs. So a serious one here. What brand of clothing do you find most cost effective and reliable?
That's a good one. I have gone through all the brands in my time of stalking and gamekeeping. And as everyone knows, I've represented Shooter King for a long time. And I jumped on that bandwagon in the early days of it because it was an up and coming brand, and it was something I sort of believed it was value for money. And that's what I believe in. Whatever you use is good value for money. It's not about the label or whatever it is. And you know, Shooter King wasn't the most known and not been, you know, best pressed bit of kit, but for me it worked. It was great. But there are a lot of other brands out there that are good, and it is a little bit of personal preference, you know. But for me, I like something that works well, something that I can destroy and not worry about the price, because that's important. Because when you're using it every day, and you know, when you are using it, it's covered in blood, and it's, you know, you get through a fence or a thorn bush and you rip it, or you're laying in elbows onto thorns, you know, you want to get the deer, not worried about what your clothing's like. So you can't be too precious with it. So my personal preference is not have too expensive stuff, or stuff that can actually take the rugged and the wear and tear. I'm actually sort of moving across and doing quite a bit of stuff with Swazi now. They're obviously a recognised brand. They're not cheap. Well, not all of it's expensive, but they are rough and rugged, so it does wear hard. So it's quite exciting actually doing some new development and some new ranges for their collection.
Well, are we going to see some Swazi stuff being pulled along behind a pickup truck on a dummy through puddles and all the rest of it, pretending to be you?
It could be. You never know. Watch your space.
It's a good video idea there.
Yeah.
There, I think. Another more serious one from KV17. He has asked, if you could choose one career, would it be YouTubing, deer stalking, or gamekeeping?
YouTubing, opening boxes, or one of them simple things that people do and record and takes about 10 minutes, get paid thousands of pounds, and then go stalking and shooting with all the money. What would I do? It's so difficult because I enjoy aspects of skills. I wouldn't do them.
Yeah.
The game shooting is 100% the most risky and stressful, and got grey hairs thinking about it. So, but I like it because it's a challenge, and I've always done it, and I do like a challenge. And it is great when you produce fantastic birds and people are happy on the day. Stalking for me is, every time I go stalking, even if I have a little bit of a difficult customer, I don't have very many, but I have an odd difficult customer, I still come away smiling. You know, it really doesn't bother me.
You can't drop a tidbit like that without explaining. So what constitutes a difficult customer, Paul?
Well, I've had all sorts. I mean, I've been guiding and taking out clients for 20 odd years, 25 years, I think. Yeah, 25 years. So I've seen it all. I think I've pretty much seen it all. Definitely, I've not done it all, but I've definitely seen it all with clients. It's a dangerous game. That's what I will say. Mm-hmm. I could tell you been quite a few very close misses. 3 in particular. You want to hear them, do you?
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Do you?
Oh yeah, you can't keep
Well-
dropping tidbits like this, Paul, and
Okay,
teasing
okay.
us.
Yeah,
Come
we'll
on.
get
Right.
Crucified
I'll
by
give-
the listeners.
Yeah.
I'll give you the quick version. My nemesis is a 308. For some reason, the 308 doesn't like me and it always wants to kill me.
I will never come
So-
stalking with you then, because that's all I shoot.
It's not a problem because now when anyone brings a 308, I'm extra cautious. No, one guy basically stalking behind me. No, we went down to shoot a deer, then he got up, we stalked in a bit closer. But instead of having the gun pointing away, he had it pointing at my feet and discharged it at my feet about 3 or 4 inches away from my foot, covered me in mud. That was one. Another guy, foreign guy from a Spanish-speaking country, Spain. He put the rifle. We're going through a hedge, and he put the rifle through past my head and pulled the trigger.
Okay.
That went past my head. That was quite a bad one. And probably the third one, which is probably one of the worst ones, was somebody. We normally, where my larder and chillers are, it's an open yard. We normally get the gun ready there, especially in the mornings. Get the gun ready, put the magazine in, keep the bolt open, and we'll walk out. Unless he finds the stalk a deer, but he put the magazine in. It was a top loader, Remington, and he put one in facing the floor, and it went into the barrel. Instead of lifting the gun up, tapping the bottom of the stock, and coming down and pushing it down with your thumb, he basically followed through with a bolt. So he grabbed hold of the bolt and then pulled the trigger at the same time as he closed the bolt, and that was about 5 inches in front of my 2 feet on concrete. Luckily, the flint in the concrete put it out directly away from me, but it showered me with concrete up through my groin underneath my chin, which cut all my chin open. That was a close one. So
Wow.
I've had quite a few, to be fair. It doesn't actually. And people, I know what people say. Well, you should make this. You should do this. Do you know what? It's pure. You're aware of it when people come. You're aware. Click of the safety, the muzzle awareness, the whole aspect. And as soon as somebody holds a gun, you can tell whether they're okay with a firearm.
Yeah.
As in,
Yeah.
are they confident? Are they? But saying that, I've had some old guys that like to point the muzzle at you as well. So every person is
It's a risky
judged.
sport. It's a dangerous thing.
When accidents like that happen, do they get immediately kickboxed to the face and escorted off Childerley HQ, or do you sort of try and carry on as per usual and sort of
take them out? No,
yeah.
Do you know what? It's the person goes to pieces. So I have to take the gun off them and obviously unload it, make it safe. They will always go to pieces, and they will. Before I can say I think we finished, they will say that's it, I'm done. And it really, absolutely, really scares them.
Yeah.
You know what? I must be, don't know, but it didn't actually bother me that much. It didn't actually. What I don't like is somebody pointing the gun at me. When it's happened, I think, well, okay, I'll survive this one. It's good. But when somebody's moving a barrel around, and I'm really on that, we do a lot of range days, and we do a lot of training. Novices are never normally a problem. Women are never a problem.
Because they listen to you and they do what you say. Almost.
Yeah, they just understand it, I think, and they just do what they need to do to get it right. But yeah, I mean, it's a hazard of the job, as they say.
Yeah,
You're a braver man than I am, Paul.
Yeah, I have to say, someone shot 2 inches away from my feet. I'm not sure I want to go out stalking next day, at least for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's on that really. I mean, we got every health and safety, procedure in place. Maybe you should come across and have a stalk with me sometime. You'll see it's military operation basically. There's no room for maneuver. No room for mistakes. Sorry. We'll have 10 guys out stalking in the morning. We do these events for, I think Sealand did one this year with guys across from Poland, and there's never any problems. It's just occasional one. where, you know, and we're talking, we do a lot of clients, so it's, yeah.
And have you, on the sort of client front, have you noticed a change in the sort of caliber, excuse the expression, of the client over the years as stalking has become more mainstream, popular, however you want to sort of say it?
Yeah, I mean, it's calibers go with the trend a little bit. You got 2430s hold strong, 3080s hold strong. There we got this, like the 6.5 Creedmoor comes through now, which I quite like that. It's a good flat range. It does the job. Then you get a few fancier rounds as well. You know,
I think this is probably, there were two questions that we must have been asked about 100 times, and one of them was, what caliber would Paul recommend for deer shooting in the UK?
oh, here we go. Well, if I was going to shoot Chinese water deer only, I'd shoot a 22 to 50, 100%. It's a fantastic round for them. Safe, knockdown power is brilliant. Carcass damage is pretty minimal compared to 243 upwards. For muntjac, I don't think it's got the knockdown power personally. You can get a little bit wrong and you can get them running on a bit. 243 works pretty well with them, I think. 308 takes them apart a bit, but 243 is good for them. Roe deer, 243, 308, whatever, really. They're big enough to take it. Fallow deer, really, 308. I mean, I'm just saying what I think is easiest to get the maximum result without trying too hard to be like, and then you got the seeker and stuff, 270. You can't. The boys on the ground tell you what it is, right? So basically, the Irish boys, they use a 270 because they know it's got a knockdown power. You turn up with a 6.5 over there, they look at you and think, oh god, this is going to be hard work, because they know the risk of an animal going on last light. When they come out, they know there's going to be a bit of a, there could be a little bit of an issue. Same in Scotland. So, but 6.5 is a good all-rounder at the moment.
I think you've saved yourself there.
Just about.
You left it just about ambiguous enough that everyone's like, yeah, he's basically said every caliber.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about that.
The other question that got asked about 100 times was your favourite species, UK deer species to stalk.
Stalk. Well, I don't want to go out the whole. They've all got their own things I enjoy, really. I mean, my favourite species is the Chinese water deer, because they probably made me what I am, really. It recognised, and I do love managing them. Some people call them boring, or they're easy to stalk. Yeah, they are. If you just walk in the field and just shoot the first one you see. But if you manage them and look at them and see how they're like stock levels and the sizes, whether the fawns are big or small, it is quite interesting part of managing them. Muntjac, I love squeaking. I love calling muntjac bucks, especially for clients. That's fantastic. I think it's better than squeaking roebucks, because
do you squeak them in with a butterlow?
I use everything. I got a butterlow. I got a cherry whistle, which is quite cool. I got a Clausen row call, and I do it on my lips as well with the old call like that as well.
That is very cool.
And then, but fallow deer I like culling.
Yeah.
Like culling until you get them on the floor, and then a lot of work.
Yeah.
But my favourite, I think, without a doubt, and I will go if people invite me, I do go, and that's roebuck in spring or in harvest. It is, because each one's different. Each hunt's different. Personally, for me, middle of May in Gloucestershire in the Cotswolds, it's like dawn chorus is like amazing. The stalk is the stalk. You'll see some deer. Yeah, that's number one for me.
And are you an evening or a morning stalker?
I like mornings. I like mornings because I like to wake up with the day, and then I got the whole day to do the rest of my work. I find sometimes in the evening I'm always chasing that last, and it runs out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The night runs out. It's like, oh, if only I had that extra bit of light. In the morning, it's normally because I messed it up.
I've got a lot of respect for you, Paul, because I've shot a few Chinese water deer, and I always feel really guilty because I find that they look so, I don't know, they've just got a way of looking at you, haven't they? And so sort of like fluffy that you're just like, oh, you poor thing. Whereas a fallow doe looks at you and I just feel zero guilt, and I'm like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Whereas Chinese, something different.
Yeah, I think a lot of farmers on some of the ground I manage would not agree with you. They hate them with a passion. Trouble with Chinese water deer, they're very visual, so they're out in the fields a lot. So farmers see them, so it's like the rabbit scenario. You know, they see 3 rabbits, there's 100 rabbits, and it's a bit like that with the Chinese. And where muntjac can get away with it, you know, they got the browse line on the edge of the field, graze line on the edge of the field, and you know it can be blamed with rabbits and everything else. But Chinese water deer, they are enemy number 1 in a lot of farms around here.
Yeah. So, leading on to another question, and this is from SJ Lewis. He's said, what advice would you give to people trying to get into deer stalking?
Into deer stalking, well, a great way now, there's a lot of people doing range days. Range days are a great way of like experiencing, getting used to the gun, bit of safety. Before you do a level 1 or 2, or you know what other courses are out there, it's good to just get out there and meet people. And by doing that, you'll instantly meet a couple of people, and they will give you advice. So it's good to go on a group, because
you run some yourselves, don't you?
Yeah, we do quite a few range days through the summer months. We're probably going to kick off. We're a bit late this year because we've been busy with other things, but June we're going to kick off this year. And our ones, basically, we do a 100, 200 meter zeroing and grouping, and basically gun hands in training and a bit of safety. But obviously the experienced ones don't need the safety bit. And then we go up to the top range, which goes out to 500 meters, which are gongs, and gongs at 100. Sorry, gongs at 200, at 50 paces, going out to 500. And then on the other side, we got 300 meter range with some simulated red deer and bits and pieces, and a couple of gongs there. And then we do the simulated stalking, and I think I probably was one of the first to set the simulated stalking up, and people love it. It's, you know, different scenarios, off the sticks, off the floor. And we do like time trials, and you know the follow-up shot. So you shoot a fallow. We got a fallow buck with a reactor target on the chest and a reactor target on the neck. So you basically say, okay, first shot in the neck, second shot in the heart. You got 30 seconds to complete it. Go. And it's, that's things like that, quite good. And you know, off the side of a release pen, shooting a fox, freehand. And just and we do a little scoring system, and you get a little goodie bag to go away with for the winner.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
What sort of people come and do the sim stalking? Is it sort of normally beginners, or do people come and sort of hone their skills? Or
we got all sorts, actually. We got some teams that come every year. We got a couple of ladies days this year. We got a juniors day we do as well. What we normally tend to find, we got 10 people on the day, and I got 4 instructors, and we tend to sort of like the novices will go with the instructor all day, and then the group that obviously can do it all, they tend to hang around a lot on the longer distance. They just want to shoot out to 500 and get their turrets sorted out. So once they're zero, they're up to the 500, just plinking out bullets all the time. And it's so funny because, as you know, most people are quite when they get to the competition side, they get a bit serious, and oh my god, it's really funny because the guys that obviously shoot a lot want to win. They generally don't, because I sort of put a bit extra pressure on them. It's really funny. Everyone quiet down. There's pressure here. So, it's
you move a couple of screws from their support or something. Yeah.
Just their turrets. They don't like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've always wanted to come and do one of your simulated stalking courses, but now that you've had so many bad experiences with the 308, I think I won't, just for your own safety, Paul.
Yeah. And Tom's got 2 308s, so you're double trouble.
No, I think you'll be all right.
So this is a Deercast first, Paul. So Leo on Instagram has said, Paul, do you want to come on a shoot next year in Suffolk?
I'm in.
You've made it. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll ping you his details. It doesn't say what kind of shoot it is, but yeah, I think that is a first. One of our guests has been invited shooting through the question and answer session.
Fantastic. If I'm free, yeah, I'd love to go. Do you know what? I love going to new places and just meet some new guys. That's why I like the stuff abroad, because basically you're just, obviously the hunting's amazing, but it's great to go across and just see how people do it. And that's why I like to go to different estates game shooting, to see how I can improve and see if I can get some tips for how I'm doing it wrong.
Of all the countries you've visited, sorry, Harry, of all the ones you visited, which has been the best, would you say, for hunting?
England.
I've
been very lucky. Slovenia is fantastic. It's like Austria, very pretty like Austria, but unsport with tourists. So you haven't got all the walkers. So that absolutely fantastic. I've been just
what do you shoot? What do you hunt in Slovenia?
They got the full work. So I hunted chamois, but they're roebucks, mouflon, red stags. You know, it's the full works there.
Oh wow.
Romania, I was in Romania. That was a fantastic rural hunt. It's like going back in time. It's like there was actually a village fete when we were there, and they had a disco, and basically all the local villages brought a pig and slaughtered the pig and had to make up bacon and bits and pieces, and then they brought their Borovichka or whatever the shop alcohol is, and basically they'd be judged on their skills of their butchery and making the moonshine basically, and they had a disco there, and it was like Borat. it was unbelievable. It's like, you know, literally they're all dancing like Borat. It's great.
Did you think you were on sort of an episode of Punks and you were like, someone's going to come out in a minute and be like,
100%. Yeah, no, it was, that was quite random. But no, I've been lucky. I've been to some lovely places. Romania was good, and the German hunts are always good with the driven boar. Just the traditional nurse, that's been really cool. See, Mozambique was in Africa's. I remember when I first went to Africa years ago, and before I went, somebody said to me, did a lot of hunting, said, once you've been to Africa, it's addictive. You'll be back. I thought, no way. I'll do it once, and that'd be me done. But it is. It's such an addictive place because there's so many variants. There's so many different parts. There's so many different species and incredible things to learn about. So yeah, I mean, I've been to Africa quite a lot of times and up and down the country. I've not been to the same place yet. Scotland was good last year with the red stag. I really did enjoy that. That was in my top 2 or 3, to be fair. That was amazing.
It feels slightly odd because a lot of those hunts have been on Fieldsports Britain. When you're sort of talking about them, I'm sort of my mind being like, oh yeah, and it almost feels as though for us as like the viewers, we were sort of, in some ways, we were there with you.
I hope so.
Yeah, like when you almost got trampled by that bull on the. It wasn't the most recent episode of Fieldsports Britain, was it? It was a couple of weeks ago, where it all looked like it got a bit hairy.
Yeah, that was that Cape Buffalo. Yeah, that was a great one actually. That was again, people don't really realise. They think you get a lot of practice and a lot of what's the word? A lot of editing, and it's not. It's literally. So sponsor like Seika, that the rifle they want me to take, I literally got that 2 days before, and I zeroed it at home. I had a few shots out there, and then we were like, we shot a Heart Beast. And then we were on the buffalo, and yeah, I mean, it's the same. A lot, but when you're using the same sort of manufacturers, a lot of the same sort of stuff. So it's just remembering to use it basically when you're in a tight situation like that.
Yeah, and you've just come back from somewhere, haven't you? Where was that?
I went to Spain for a Ronda Ibex, which was. We were unsuccessful actually because there was a heat wave, and all the males had gone into summer mode, and they just dispersed into the woods and whatnot, away from the females. So we could have taken a young male, but they don't shoot them under 6, 7 years, and he was a bit younger than that. And they said you can take him. I said, well, there's no point. We don't need to do it for film. I've shot plenty of things, so it's just keep doing what you do, and we'll come back another time.
Yeah. That's quite old, isn't it? 7 years is the sort of minimum.
Yeah. So they only shoot old males. Shoot up to 7 to 14-year-old males. So yeah.
They're tough.
I'm conscious we're peppering you with so many questions, Paul. So we might move on to the next section of the podcast, which is all about meat. And actually, there have been quite a few questions on that anyway from our listeners. And we asked this to all of our guests. What's your favourite cut of venison? How would you cook it? And if you had to pick a deer that it came from, i.e., would you go, it's got to be a roe loin, or it's got to be a haunch from a Chinese water deer, and I'd cook it like this? What would be your dish?
Right. My favourite is very equal, actually. It's a seeker buck. So here in a bit.
Very specific.
A Chinese water deer buck, first year before rut.
Yeah.
The back straps out of them, take all the silver off, do them all out, and then put them in olive oil and sea salt with some rioja. Leave them overnight, and then hot flame. The perfect way to do them is actually a wood flame. So basically, get your old wood fire sorted out, and get it all dyed down so it's nice and hot, cold, no smoke, and so it's sizzling hot, flash, burn, job done, easy. And I've done it so many times at dinner parties, and people think you're like some sort of, took ages. It's just the most easiest thing to do ever.
So you marinate it in like a bath of rioja, or are we talking like a little drizzle?
No. So basically, in a dish, the back straps, and basically a good helping of olive oil, a good bit of sea salt, but not broken whole. Big chunk of sea salt. Yeah. And a good glass full of rioja. Okay. And then turn it a couple of times as well. It starts to cook it a little bit, actually. So it does actually really does sort of and then when you flash cook it on the hot for coals, it seals it and just cook it to whatever your preference is. I quite like it sort of I don't like it bleeding, but I do like it just on the edge.
So we've had a few chefs on this podcast, and I think even they've not been as specific about the venison as you just were there. What was it? A Chinese water deer, buck, fawn before the rut.
Before the rut.
It's got to be a particular colour. You've got to shoot it in a particular place.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and
facing
it's when the guys that handle a lot of carcasses, you'll say you have 20 carcasses in the larder, you'll go, yes. They're the ones that you would eat because they are absolutely in prime condition. The rest of them are fine. They're absolutely fantastic. But you've seen so many, that perfect fat, that perfect colour. And he's like, just lift that out, think, okay, I'll have the back straps that one. Thank you very much.
Quality control.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Out of interest, and you might not want to divulge this on the podcast, but I mean, for us round here, we're sort of Chiltern Hills. A lot of game dealers don't want, sadly, Chinese water deer or muntjac carcasses because for them they want the 30 kilo fallow carcasses. Do you struggle with that sheer volume of Chinese water deer carcasses, or are you at that other end where they're a premium product and actually everyone's fighting over them?
That's a fantastic question, actually, because it really gets to me about the game dealer side of things. And about 10 years ago, I had a bit of a few carcasses in the chiller, and the game dealer rejected them. Said, we can't get rid of them. We can take them away for you, but we don't want to buy them. I said, well, no. And then there was a muntjac in there as well. And so basically, we bring the Chinese in, we skin them on in the larder, put them in the chiller, and then we either do back straps or haunches. All the front ends and all the bone and the meat either goes to a raw dog food person I know, or we've used, like the keepers use them for the dogs themselves. I do as well, which they absolutely thrive on it through the winter months. I didn't think they would, and I thought it'd be a bit messy, but absolutely fantastic. And yeah, we do the back straps, so 2 back straps in a vacuum bag, haunch cut down, sometimes boned, depending on what time we got. And then this year, because we had a lot of deer, a lot of Chinese water deer, a lot of the haunches we put into burgers. Instead of doing a burger mix, we tried lots of different flavors, and to try and get the right one. A mate of mine runs a really good butchery, and he said, "Why bother?" He said, "Just a bit of salt, a bit of real mild salt, spices, and let the flavour be the deer. They're very mild anyway, and then people can spice them up to how they want them." He said, "Because you're using such good, we're using haunches. We're not using like all the bits and the scrags bit, but we're using actually the haunches." So, and we've done them, and we got like 3,000 burgers, and do you know what? They're just flying. I mean, just flying, just constant. And because we got the shoot days, range days, I constantly get a message always. As soon as warm weather comes, the phone doesn't stop ringing really. So, and I haven't sold one to the game dealer since. And this year we've done nigh on 700 Chinese. We skinned them all ourselves. We've done them all through. The cold days, people buy them. They love them. We got people come on the cold days. Before they come, they say, "Can we have all the deer on the cold day?" Yeah. So
that is
700.
amazing.
Wow. Yeah. And are you shifting all of that venison just through people involved with the? Wow.
Yeah. And that's the difference. What people don't realise now, a lot of hunters or stalkers come now, and they want it. They, if they don't want the whole carcass, they'll take away a haunch or a couple of haunches because it's ready to go. But I have so many people now that actually want to experience the cutting and the jointing and learn that side of it. But it's very difficult with a warm carcass. So normally in the wintertime we got a few carcasses in there, so we'll show them on a chilled carcass. So yeah, I mean it's developed a lot in the last 5 years of people's mentality on stalking. 100%.
I suppose that is the massive advantage of a Chinese water deer as well, isn't it? Because if someone comes to say they came out with us and they shoot a 30 kilo fallow, and you're like, "Do you want this?" It's not going to fit in your boot, but you can strap it to the roof or something. Whereas they come to you, shoot a Chinese water deer, and literally you can fit that in a freezer drawer in your normal household fridge. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very easy, very usable, very handleable. Even so, like just lift into the larder. Our fallow deer now, the estate where we shoot the fallow deer, excuse me, they do. There's a lot of people are now doing the meat boxes. So they got a lot of cows on the place. They do a mixed meat box, and I don't know what you shoot there. 100 plus or so, whatever it is we do, but everything goes through the estate, and they put it through the meat boxes. So that's again, it's like amazing.
I think that is a massively untold story of yours, Paul, that you ought to be incredibly proud of. So I don't think there can be many people culling as many deer as you, who's essentially self-sufficient, not using a game dealer, and pumping it all back into the same industry where it came from. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, and the guys, the keepers and the stalkers, their credit as well, because again, the OCD, Paul Childerly, it's got to be done a certain way, but it's not just about that. It's about the efficient way of doing it. So they know that if I've done it for a long time, it makes it easy, so we can get home rather than messing around the larder for another hour trying to get things sorted. So, but credit to them, they're mustard on it.
I've seen how quickly you can skin and joint.
A
Chinese water deer. I can't remember what it was. Is it like a minute to skin it and 6 minutes to joint it or something?
It's less than that, I'm sure. And I know exactly the video you're talking about, Harry.
I watched it and I just thought, it takes me 2 hours. How are you doing this? Incredible.
Yeah,
practice makes perfect. I guess.
Fallow buck or an old muntjac buck ain't quite a quick.
No. So, but I've got a question about your skinning. When you skin them and then you hang them afterwards. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So basically, because we don't hang for a long time, you get a lot of guys that do a lot of hanging for obviously to get the meat tender and flavour and all this sort of thing. But because of Chinese water deer, it's a mild meat anyway, and we have volume, so we can't have things. Volumes of deer, and we have a throughput, so we can't have things hanging around for too long.
Yeah.
And as you know, when you skin a Chinese water deer, there's hair everywhere. You skin that 2 days later when it's cold, that carcass will be covered in hair. You skin it when it's warm, do it right, it just comes off. You have a few hair on it, a quick wipe down, and it's a clean carcass. And then we leave them overnight, then we joint them the next day. So it's or next 2 days. So it's done pretty quick.
So it doesn't have time to sort of dry out, because that's the problem I've had when I've skinned muntjac and left them for a week. They go all kind of crispy and horrible.
Jerky.
Yeah, that's actually no.
Ready made.
Yeah. We don't leave anything too long. Yeah.
No. So from quite a kind of serious bit to probably you can relax now, Paul, because we're approaching the end of the podcast, and we'll let you go in a bit. You can go and enjoy your Barocca. The final bit of the podcast is called Bobby's Bit, which I did promise we'd explain to you. Harry's brother is called Bobby. And around about the time we were first starting this podcast, Bobby was, I think he was taking a gap year between school and university. And he was living at home, had a full-time job. And so he was in that like blissful bit of life where you've got no bills, but you've got basically a full-time income. Quite a keen deer stalker as well. So he spent the entire year going out and buying loads of bits of kit and equipment for deer stalking and basically making Harry and I very, very jealous. So we've named this bit of the podcast after him. So Bobby's Bits, that's where it's come from. And it's all about
we're going to have to rename it. I can't believe we've stuck with it for 16.
We've done it for 16 episodes. We've got to keep going now. We do always say in each episode, we're like, do we explain it? And then we're like, well, if there's someone new who tunes in and suddenly they're like, Bobby's Bits, maybe this podcast isn't for me. So we just have to sort of explain it. But it's really, is there a bit of kit or equipment you couldn't live without, Paul? But equally, is there a bit of kit or equipment that you're kind of hankering after? And if so, what is it?
Oh dear, that's a good question, really. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I'm pretty minimalistic when I go stalking. So I go stalking with or without a client. I'll have my binoculars, rifle, ammo, sticks. I don't take a thermal.
That is minimal.
I don't. I have a knife, obviously a knife.
Yeah,
that's it. I don't take. I have had, the puffers for the wind. I've had everything, but I just generally think I've got to carry it. So literally, I have minimal, and I will take a row sack if I'm going somewhere where I need to carry something out. Apart from that, I love just having minimal. I don't want to get into the thermal thing too much, but for me, I don't use a thermal ever. That's a lie, actually. I use it when we're having to do big culls and number counting, stuff like that. Recovery of our deer, even recovery on deer. I did think sometimes it makes you don't go down the basic route of following up, looking where, what, and how, and get on your hands and knees. So that's probably that, really. What I'm after, what I really need is this nice sunny morning in the Cotswolds after a roebuck.
That we might be able to help with.
Because kit, I mean, I'm very fortunate, with the sponsors I get and the stuff I do. I get a lot of goodie bags and goodies and stuff. And when it arrives, I like it. I use it, test it. But normally the latest kit's coming out. I'm testing it.
Does that get a bit annoying in terms of you sort of get used to a certain setup and you're like, this is the dream, I love it, I don't ever want to change, and then I don't know, say Zeiss send you a new scope and you're like, it's lovely, but I actually just want to keep using the one I've already got, but you sort of feel like you have to chop out to the new one. Does that happen, or are you a bit of a kit fiend and the new thing arrives and you're like, oh, shiny?
I got my favourite when I go out vermin controlling, foxing. I will use, if I got a job to do, I would take that. If I go deer stalking and I got a job to do, I will use my hardcore favourite gun that I know will work, and the scope and stuff, because I know I haven't got to think. With the new stuff, I have to think. I have to really, and I use it a bit to get used to it, but I have to really think. It's not a natural natural what's the word? God, you must have me on for too long. My brain's gone dead.
We've killed Paul Childerly, everyone.
Someone's managed it. I mean, has there been something in the last sort of 10 or so years that's come along and you've thought, wow, this is a real kind of game changer to my setup, for instance? Or is it, are you a bit of a sort of purist, but a traditionalist, I think?
God, probably last longer than a few years. Probably silencers or moderators was the biggest thing for me, because I damaged my ears so much with the 20 to 50 when I was like a youngster, and 243. I just absolutely smashed them. So I'm gonna have problems when I'm older. That's the biggest thing, probably. When the first red dot scopes come out, that was a game changer. Especially with culling fallow deer, for me, it's like, oh my god, it's amazing.
Do you mean like the no zoom kind of dots, or do you mean like the illuminated reticle style?
Illuminated reticles, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just when they first come out, it was like, God, this is brilliant for poor light, for fox shooting.
Yeah.
It was like, it's fantastic. I started off, when I first started off, father, we had a Parker Hale 243 shooting 100 grain normal bullets with a Tasco 8-power scope on. It was like a 42 angle. It was basic, and that was a boomer. And I was holding a car torch battery lamping foxes, and he was shooting over top of my head of the Land Rover, and I go to school the next day with my ears ringing. So things have changed a little bit now.
Times have
changed. Well,
there we go.
I feel like we might have drained you / killed you, Paul. So I feel like we probably ought to let you go before we do some further damage to you. But I think it's been an amazing podcast. I think we've been going for just over an hour, which is amazing, and still got so much more we could have asked you. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Know you're a very very busy man. So just thank you very much, Paul. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, somewhat, and we will try and put you in touch with the chap who's offered you a day's shooting in Suffolk. Don't say you don't get anything out of coming on the Deercast.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And it's been great. It's great to share a few of my secrets, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be trying that. We're trying that fillet on a barbecue soon. Definitely. Great idea.
Good luck.
Make sure it's exactly the right one, though, Harry.
Yeah, I know. I'll be very specific. Don't worry. Thank you very much, Paul.